We live in a nation of renters, and you watching the video might be one of those renters. And maybe you're wondering, should I continue to rent and wait for a crash before I buy a home? Or should I buy a home as soon as possible so I can stop building my landlord's wealth and start building my own? And in today's video, I'll go over the pros and cons of waiting versus not waiting, and the typical argument when it comes to buying versus renting, as well as hopefully give you a different perspective on home ownership in general. And if that sounds cool to you, and if you're in the market for buying a home or just want to learn more about home ownership in general, make sure you stick through the end of the video, and don't forget to go down and give me a tap of that like button. I'd really appreciate it. What's up guys, it's Avery here. If you're new to the channel, I'm all about investing in real estate, personal finance, and helping those out there build their wealth. So if that sounds cool to you, make sure you buckle up for this entertainment and not advice. The first argument that comes about when people talk about should I continue to rent or should I buy a home is looking at that monthly payment. If the mortgage is going to be less than what you are currently renting a home for, then it would make a lot of sense for you to go ahead and buy a home because you're going to be saving a lot of money. And just looking at a typical standard home of $350,000 to $375,000 median price, and yes, it's possible that this is not the case in your area. Many coastal cities are far more expensive, and many other places are less expensive. This is why I'm talking about the median, because it's the median, not your specific example. But if we go ahead and look at that, if you have a $350,000 property that you are attempting to purchase, say for example, this is a standard 3-bed, 2-bath home, which you'll run into, and let's say we do 6% down payment, because 6% down payment was the average for first-time home buyers in 2020, and you're gonna do a 30-year loan because you watched my other video saying that it makes more sense for you to buy a property with a 30-year instead of a 15-year mortgage. And we'll say a 3.17% interest rate, because that's probably about where they are right now. And typically I've seen homeowners insurance policies be about $100 a month. I think that's about right. And property taxes may vary, but obviously your rent will vary from place to place, and you're most likely going to be purchasing in the same place that you are renting. So you can see right here, we have a $1,750 per month mortgage payment. And potentially this same 3-bed, 2-bath in your area would be renting for $2,000. So it makes a lot of sense. You're going to save $250 right off the bat. We should just go ahead and purchase this property. Another comment that I hear is that renting is like throwing away money. A very typical example would be that $2,000 a month apartment. If you rented that for 5 years, that's $120,000 that you're forking over to your landlord rather than using for saving and investing or just doing whatever you want with your money. So it makes a lot more sense to buy so you're not just throwing away that money. The last argument that I typically hear is that the net worth of those who are homeowners is far greater than those who are renting. Typically renters have a $6,500 net worth, and those who own homes have a $255,000 net worth. Obviously a huge difference. So right there you think, if I go purchase a home, I'm gonna be $240,000, $250,000 richer than those folks who never buy a home in the first place. Just makes a lot of sense. So all of those points that I talked about really steer you towards wanting to buy a home because it's cheaper, you're going to be richer, and it just makes a lot more sense in general. One last argument that people typically talk about would be that the cost of getting into a home versus the cost of getting into an apartment is not that crazy different when you think about the value that you're putting that money down as and gaining that equity right away. So with this apartment where you're spending $2,000 a month, possibly you have first month's, last month's security or a broker fee, that would be max of $8,000. And then with the same property, because we're putting 6% down, which is the average, we have a $21,000 down payment on this $350,000 home, as well as let's say $5,000 in closing costs. So you can see $26,000 versus $8,000. And even though that $26,000 is over 3 times as much, at least $21,000 of it is going towards building your equity. When you have that $8,000 you're paying to get into that apartment, it's all going down the drain. People have given you all of these reasons, including myself, that this is a great reason to go ahead and buy a home rather than rent. And many of you out there are thinking that you want to go buy a home and you're convinced by these reasons, but you're thinking about the upcoming housing crash and that you would just want to wait for a crash so prices could come down so that you then could actually afford a home, or you're not overpaying for a home and buying the wrong property. But something that's often missed in this particular argument is the actual cost of homeownership. Yes, you have to pay for the down payment and the closing costs, But once you're in the home, there are far many bigger things that happen that you didn't think about before you went into actually purchasing the home. And I'm not just talking about maintenance costs, but yes, there are many maintenance costs. You're gonna have to pay for an inspection, or you should. Definitely don't waive an inspection. Definitely not the smartest thing to do when you go in to purchase a home, especially for the first time. If you don't know anything about homes, you're gonna want an inspection because it will help you be able to negotiate the price and let you know what you need to fix. So you're gonna need to fix those things that are major issues, and that can cost some money. Probably somewhere between $5,000, $50,000, really depends on the home you've purchased. So you need to have that money set aside as well. But you may be thinking, because I'm putting it into the home is gonna increase in value. Well, that is not always true. Just because you're adding some type of thing to your home or paying for some repair in your home does not mean it will add value. The value of your home is based on the other homes around you. So that's important to think about. And the other cost of homeownership that is definitely hidden, but we do not think about and we do not talk about, is that you think of this as now your home. When you were renting your apartment, maybe you didn't care about it so much. Maybe you just got the cheaper IKEA furniture or went to Target, slapped something together and put the stuff together. Didn't really think about it too much. But when you now have this home that you care about, and that pride of homeownership that people often talk about, you're spending a lot more money on having nice things because you've put all this money into this house. You want to make it beautiful. You care about it so much. So you not only are paying more for furniture and potentially have more because it's a bigger house, but there are other things that happen in neighborhoods that you need to think about. Every year you're paying for Halloween candy, and you need to get Christmas decorations or whatever holiday decorations. So there are a lot of other costs other than just maintenance, down payment, and the actual closing costs themselves that come up through homeownership, especially because you have far more pride when it comes to taking care of that property versus taking care of your rental. Even with me giving that one point and then also talking about the standard points, you may still feel that the benefits of owning a home outweigh being a renter for the rest of your life. But some other things that people think about is how homeownership is as an investment. Many people just believe that no matter what home you buy, it will be an investment. Many people do not go into buying a home and look at anything more than those couple of statistics. You're thinking, if my mortgage is less and I'm going to gain a greater net worth, then everything is just going to be great. Nothing will go poorly. We'll talk to a lot of people who bought a home in Vegas in 2006 and then sold it at a loss. They definitely did not do very well. And that happens to many, many people throughout the United States and the rest of the world. They do not think about where they're buying a home and how much it costs, and if they're buying at the top of the market, or if instead of buying the nicest home in the worst area, could they buy a bad home in a great area and fix it up. So people typically do not look at buying a home as an investment, because when you go buy a home, you know that you're going to be living there. So you want to live in a place that is nice, and you don't really want to do a whole lot of work, because as humans, we don't really like doing work. And because it's marketed to us as the American dream, that homeownership is the ultimate goal, all of us want to buy a home. But it's very smart on the banks to market it as such, because we are paying the banks many, many thousands, if not trillions of dollars in interest across all Americans in the country and across everywhere else in the world. And we are going to be the ones who end up losing out if it loses a lot of value. The bank still gets paid and you get screwed. So it's important to think about that. Just because it's marketed as the American dream does not mean that that home ownership is the end all be all. Someone who is renting could then take that excess money that went towards your down payment, your closing costs, maintenance costs, and Halloween candy, and invested it in some type of low-cost index fund or ETF and increase their net worth. The reason the average net worth of those who are renting is $6,500 is because no one really knows about investing, or the majority of people don't. But if they did, they would be doing far better. And the reason why homeownership net worth is far higher is because many places in the world will have real estate prices increase. It's not 100% guarantee, but over time, over the course of when you own that home, maybe for 30 years, you will likely have it be greater than when you bought it. But I think it's important to think about that American dream argument, and this is why we want to buy a home. I honestly think if the government and banks told us that owning Bitcoin was the American dream, everyone would try to own Bitcoin, and then it would increase the price far more. And it definitely is still a good investment and a good hedge against inflation, and still buying a home can be as well. But many people don't know anything about Bitcoin and still bought it, and many people don't know anything about home ownership. The typical person really doesn't understand how a home works or how you can actually prevent a home from having any greater maintenance issues or the things that you need to maintain every single year to make sure that your home does not fall apart. So I think instead of thinking about this how we normally do, thinking a home is an asset and it's going to be the greatest generator of wealth in our lifetime, because for a majority of middle-class people, it is. We need to flip it on its head and think about the fact that a home is a liability. It really is not an asset. It's very simple. An asset will put money in your pocket and a liability will take money away. So when you go purchase a home, you are putting money in the bank's pocket and you continue to put money in the bank's pocket every single month and take it out of your own. Yes, you are building some equity, but the average person does not even touch that equity. If you go ahead and take out a home equity line of credit or do a cash out refinance and then go buy a rental property where someone else is paying off the note, then yes, you have utilized the home properly and done with it what you should and could actually do. But if you're taking out that home equity line of credit or cash out refinance to pay off credit card debt, and you're getting into more personal debt to paying off more personal debt, and you just continue to be in this cycle of crazy debt, then you're going to continue to be having that home as a liability. And I think the best way to go against this and not have a home as a liability is to purchase a house hack. I purchased 2 house hacks in my life and they have been completely the best thing that I could have ever done, and they have catapulted my wealth tenfold. I could be someone who is continuing to rent and have that $6,500 net worth, but instead it's closer to $500,000 at this point in my life. And I really haven't done that much work. And really all that I did was purchase a small multifamily property, a 2-unit and a 3-unit, and I lived in it with a low money down payment. So I only had to put 3.5% down, and then I rented out the other rooms, and then I no longer had a housing payment because those rooms and those units that were rented out paid my mortgage, and then they also increased in value a ton over the past couple of years. So that really isn't a liability because someone else is paying it off for me as well as it increases in value. I didn't have to pay a single dollar towards that monthly payment. Yes, I paid to improve the home, but that also increased the value of the home in general. So when you're thinking about whether you should wait for a crash or if you should buy a home, or just a typical rent versus buy argument, I do not think it should be a rent versus buy argument. I think it's an invest versus not invest argument. When you go ahead and are looking to purchase a home, you need to think about it more as an investment. You need to run the numbers and see if things crashed a significant amount, could you still handle the mortgage payments? You need to think if you could rent it out, would it still cash flow? You need to think that if I continue to rent, could I invest my money elsewhere and then have it grow a bunch without having to think so much about maintenance costs or home ownership or Halloween candy? So it's not just thinking about I'm renting and it costs $200 more or $250 more a month and then my mortgage would be cheaper. It's about, can I invest my money and what's the opportunity cost of me continuing to rent versus buying a home? And if you can actually sit down, crunch the numbers, and think about what is actually going on, then you will make a smart purchase. Now, I didn't really answer the first question about should you wait for a market crash or buy a home now, but I've had other videos out on that, and if you want to listen to that, go ahead, check it out up here or in the description below. But I really think that if you can handle the payments, or if your tenants are able to handle the payments of that mortgage, you're going to be able to get through any crash and survive any type of downturn. And over the course of 30 years, if you have a broader horizon for your lifetime, that asset will actually increase in value. So I don't really think there's too much to worry about, even if you bought at the top of the market versus buying at the bottom of the market. So that's really my 2 cents on that. But I really wanted to get you guys to think a little bit differently about home ownership as a liability and not necessarily an asset, depending how you go and purchase it. So if you guys found that video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. If you haven't done so, hit that like button and turn on the notification bell if you want to hear more from me. And if you really want to hear more from me, go ahead and check me out on Instagram as well as TikTok. I like to make reels and other TikTok videos daily and talk about the same kind of stuff. So really appreciate it if you check me out there as well. Thanks again for watching. More money and more real estate is coming your way. Hope to see you guys next time.